Hello, I'm Mark Warner. You may have heard about me. Until very recently, I was the Conservative candidate in Toronto Centre for the upcoming by-election or federal election, whenever it's called. I'm also a Canadian lawyer and an American lawyer and have practiced in both countries. I'm speaking to you today because of what I saw as a strange coincidence between the timing of my dismissal as a candidate for the Conservative Party and an announcement that Canada had shifted its policy of not seeking clemency for a Canadian citizen on death row in the United States. This decision has been greeted with outrage by the kind of people who normally applaud the actions of Canada. I think of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Louise Arbour, a former Supreme Court Justice here in Canada, and also the Secretary General of the Council of Europe. These are the kind of people who usually take the side of Canada. When I was dismissed for talking about education, immigration, housing, and attending an AIDS conference or publicizing that fact, many people asked whether there was indeed a hidden agenda of this Conservative government. I am concerned that there is a hidden agenda with respect to capital punishment. You know, every leader of the Conservative Party from the 1950s has opposed capital punishment. And I want to read a few quotes quickly from leaders of our party so you can get the flavor of that. John Diefenbaker, our Prime Minister, in fact a man who was a lawyer who defended many people in capital crime cases in his criminal law career, said this in 1966. "It is a frightful thing when a man you believe to be innocent walks to the gallows and later the truth comes out." Brian Mulroney, our Prime Minister through the 1980s and also the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, said this in 1987 in the House of Commons. "I am not persuaded the death penalty works as a deterrent, nor am I persuaded it is appropriate as a punishment. On the contrary, I believe it is repugnant and I believe it is profoundly unacceptable." Robert Stanfield, the leader of our Conservative Party and the man many people believe to be the greatest Prime Minister Canada never had, said this in 1987. "Hanging not only brutalizes us, but it is useless as a deterrent. It is worse than useless because it detracts from our facing the realities of violence in our society. Hanging is one of those simple answers that doesn't work. It didn't deter people from stealing in the past times, and it won't deter murderers now." I believe all these leaders of the Conservative Party were correct. You know, the last time the Supreme Court of Canada spoke on the issue of capital punishment in 2001, it was in the context of an extradition of a Canadian citizen to face the death penalty in the United States. And there the Supreme Court said, repeating prior jurisprudence, that to do so would shock the conscience of Canadians. I believe the Supreme Court was right. In making its decision, the Supreme Court relied on the fact that Canada had a strong tradition of opposing the death penalty at home. In fact, removing the last vestiges of the death penalty for military crimes in 1998. We also had a strong state practice in joining up with international agreements that opposed the death penalty. And also the Supreme Court pointed to the fact that there was a growing trend within the United States towards a moratorium against the death penalty. I believe each of these reasons is under attack today by this subtle action by the Harper Conservative government. Because a future Supreme Court asked the same question that the court was asked in 2001, will not be able to say that our position internationally is as strong, keeping in mind that at the same time as this decision was taken, the Canadian government also decided not to co-sponsor a resolution against the death penalty that we normally have co-sponsored in Geneva at the United Nations. So I think if a future decision were to come up, we will not have that same background that we had, and our position will be weaker. And this is the first step, I believe, in towards making capital punishment once again acceptable in Canada, and it must never be acceptable in Canada. Let me conclude with a quotation from Thomas Jefferson speaking about slavery. You know, there's been a lot of talk recently about the Northern Star, but let me just say this. Thomas Jefferson said, "I tremble for my country when I think that God is just." Well, today I tremble for my party when I think that God is just. Thank you.